forward to my cookies. Okay, so good evening and happy new year again. I'm Dr. Hefsi Tago and I'm the main science teaching lead at the Town Square Learning Centre. And the purpose, as I said earlier on for this call, is to break down secondary school science so the parents can better support their children. And when you have parents' evening, you are well informed to ask the right questions and also better support your children with their choices based on, how well they enjoy the sciences, what options they want to be looking at. And when it comes to buying textbooks as well, everyone just buys any books at all that they say, oh, I need a revision book. And then they just purchase things on Amazon or whatever websites you see, but then just understanding as well that there are different exam bodies. So if you are going to be purchasing additional study resources for your child, it's best to know what exam body that this school is working with so you are getting the right resource. Okay, let's jump straight in. Right, GCSE science. Prior to GCSEs, a primary school science is taught as one subject of science. Okay, so when children then start year 7, they now have I've got the options, but then the science is now broken down into 3 different lessons. So you have a different science lesson for biology, you'd have a different lesson for chemistry, and you would have a different lesson for physics. Okay, different schools timetable this in different ways, and you would find that for some students, every term they may just do one of these famous 3 subjects. They may just have a term of biology, a term of physics, a term of chemistry, whereas some schools timetable to do all of these differently. Okay, so again, it's good to have conversations with your children's teachers when they start year 7, just so at least you have an idea as to the curriculum plan that the school will be following, especially where they may be having extra tuition, so you can better liaise with the school and your child's tutor to be on the same page with the content that they will be covering. Okay, so that's the first thing. Now, when it comes to Key Stage 3 science, it's a lot of the fundamental basics, and the whole idea of the curriculum is themed under what we call working scientifically. So it's trying to get children to understand that a lot of science is based on research and evidence that over time could change. Okay, so it's not set in stone. So you may do something, you may discover, if we take common current analogy, COVID vaccines, we have first dose, second dose, and then we realize, oh, by the way, there's a new evidence, we need to restart. So that is science, okay? And so just trying to get children to understand from the early age that it's not ideally something that you should just be learning by rote, memorizing things, because science is constantly evolving, and appreciating the general concept of science in our world today, so that even if it's not a specialist subject that you want to carry on with, everyone needs that basic knowledge of science. As you progress to Key Stage 4, it's one of those tricky subjects because it's compulsory. Math, English, and science are compulsory, okay, when you're picking your choices. However, math and English, you do need to pass. You have to pass everything. Every student should strive to pass every subject at least with a minimum of 4 or 5. However, to progress, you must have math and English. It's not the same case for science, but it's compulsory anyway, just because science is cool like that. And everyone should have fundamental basic knowledge of science. And so, right, from year 7, you'll be doing all the introductory things to the human body, understanding chemistry as the fundamentals of, I am going to use some scientific knowledge here, so atoms being the foundation of all matter, understanding your chemical reactions, chemical equations, a periodic table, really the foundation of science that you can build on for GCSEs, and also trying to get children at the Key Stage 3 level to understand that all of these 3 sciences are interrelated. And so there will be biology concepts that you would come across in chemistry, and there'll be chemistry concepts that you come across in physics as well. So the new curriculum is designed so that each of these subjects feed into each other. So ideally, you don't want to just, I like biology, so I'm just going to focus on biology, or I like physics, so I just focus on physics. They are all interlinked in one way or the other. Okay. The other thing, if you're not aware already, is the new grading system. It has been around for over 3 years now. So whereas traditionally it would be, I go A star, B, C, D, etc., it's now working with a number system. And so the lowest grade, it's a 1, and the highest, it's a 9. And ideally, you want to be aiming the minimum pass mark, it's a 4. But of course, we need to encourage our children to try their best to be getting 5s and above. And of course, for those who are high achievers, very academic, ideally you want to be aiming for your 8s and your 9s, okay? Right. Now, when it comes to the choices, okay, you can either do double science or triple science. And these are the choices that you're making at the end of year 9 before you go into the actual GCSE year. So everyone is doing the same thing from year 7, year 8, and based on the school you're at, pretty much some of year 9. Some schools start GCSE content in year 9, but for most schools, you'll be making your choices around year 9 when you're going into year 10. So when you do come to choose the sciences that you do want to do, you have the option of doing what we call combined science or double science or triple science. The main difference, whatever the exam body is, and we'll come to exam bodies later on, is that with the combined science, you are still doing your physics, your chemistry, and your biology. However, at the end of your GCSEs, it accounts for 2 grades. So you're getting an average. Oh, there was my phone ringing there, pardon me. So you're getting graded on an average of those 3 subjects. Whereas when it comes to triple science, you're getting 3 GCSEs. And so you get a grade for your physics separately, you get a grade for your biology separately, and a grade for your chemistry separately. So whether some schools only offer combined science, okay, there are some schools that don't do triple science at all. And there are other schools that will give children both options, combined and triple science. And the main difference again, or one of the differences with the 2 streams, is the content. So with triple science, there's a lot more content that you're having to cover in more detail than you would do for double science or combined science. Also, when it comes to your final exam, the combined science, so 1 hour, 15 minutes, whereas with the triple, I believe it's 1 hour, 45 minutes. Now, this also depends on whether or not you're doing foundation or the higher, okay? So whether it's combined or triple, you can either choose to do foundation or choose to do higher. That decision comes in year 11 when you've done a few mocks, and based on teachers' recommendations, they would advise what students they put in to do the higher content and what students they put in to do the foundation. And you can request, if for example, the child has been put down to the foundation, you can have conversations with the school if you feel that they can push through those last few months of exam to pass a higher. You can have conversations with the school to jump in and do the higher. And if you feel your child may not quite be keen on doing the higher and they're better suited to foundation, it's a conversation you can have with the school as well. But generally, just bear in mind, those doing higher have a lot more content to cover in more detail, and the exams are usually 1 hour and 45 minutes, whereas those doing foundation or combined have 1 hour, 15 minutes exam to do. Again, whether you're doing combined or triple, you will still sit 3 papers. You'll still sit a separate biology exam, you will still sit a separate chemistry exam, and you will still sit a separate physics exam, okay? So although you do get 2 grades for combined, you still sit all 3 papers and they get an average of the 3 based on 2 grades. And then if you're doing all 3, you get 3 different grades and you still sit those 3 different papers. Okay, so that is the common questions that we normally get. Also bearing in mind that different schools use different exam bodies. Now there are 3 main exam bodies, being AQA, which when it comes to the science is the most popular. And then you have the option of OCR, and then you have the option of Edexcel, okay? And so there's a national curriculum that guides the content that every school needs to be doing. But based on the exam body that your child is doing, the content and the exam style was expected in terms of how students answer these exams will have slight variations. So it's quite important that when you are purchasing, as I said earlier on, additional study materials for your children, that you know the exam body that the school is using and the exams that they're going to be sitting with under what exam body, so they're getting the right information with their revision, okay? The national curriculum is freely available online for anyone and everyone to access. We always advise our students especially when they get to GCSEs and they're revising, to always refer back to the curriculum. It's not, it may not be easy to understand for everyone because of course it's not designed for students. However, most you can get summarized versions, okay, at the end of every topic. Even schools would provide some of these to children to sort of say, this is what you're expected to know at the end of this topic, so that when you're doing your revision, you have some kind of a checklist, okay, that you're working with. You're expected to know this equation, you're expected to define, know these definitions, you're expected to be able to identify these symbols, for example. So if you know what is expected of you as per the national curriculum, which is feeding into your exam body, it helps direct your learning. So you're not just reading things for the sake of it. And even when you do read the content, if you are aware what you expected to know, it helps guide the kind of exam style questions that you should be really preparing yourself for. Okay. What else do I need to mention? We've talked about the foundation tier and the higher tier. We've also talked about the different grade boundaries. We've talked about the triple award versus a double award, and pretty much the basis of Key Stage 3 science from foundation. So I do hope this has been useful. We haven't really allowed room for questioning because it's supposed to be recorded so people can watch back later on. But if there's anything that we've left out, there's any questions that you have about secondary school science that has not been covered, do please just send us a message and I will definitely get back to you with any questions that you do have. I suppose it's useful to mention as to, who should be thinking about doing triple or double science or higher. The only thing I will say about that is that if your child intends to carry on with science as sixth form, not necessarily college, I'm talking specifically sixth form. So if they're looking to follow the standard academic route and they're looking to do physics, chemistry, or biology as sixth form, then ideally they need to be doing higher. It can be combined higher, it can be triple higher. Bearing in mind the triple higher has more detailed content, ideally for students looking to pursue careers like medicine, dentistry, the science heavy type courses or sixth form, it is advisable to do triple higher, only because it makes a transition to A-level science a bit easier. Of course, at A-level, you can choose which of these three sciences you are doing. You don't have to do all three, but whichever of these you're doing, there is pre-required knowledge for A-level science that usually when students have not done triple higher at GCSE level, they tend to struggle initially, only initially, to fill in that gap because of that pre-required or expected knowledge that you should have to do A-level science. That is the only main downside to children or to students not having done triple higher and then going in to do A-level science. Again, having said that, most sixth forms would start at this baseline anyway, bearing in mind that they do know that there are some students who have only done combined higher prior to coming into sixth form. It just makes certain concepts easier to build on, to follow if you've done triple higher at GCSE. So that's the only thing. But of course, there's so many options for 16 now. There's always a 5 science route, and we'll come back to science careers later on another time. But for now, hopefully we have addressed all your questions. As I said earlier on, any more questions, just drop us a message and we will be sure to get back to you with that extra information that you do need. Thank you for joining us and Happy New Year to you. Bye. And I believe I can end now. My video ended. Doop, 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 doop. Did I record? Yes, I did.